We spend some time with the only in-arena voice in the history of the Utah Jazz, Dan Roberts, as he wraps up his career, plus a thought on the incredible community that is the Utah Jazz and Locked on Jazz. Next, here on Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast in the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps and on YouTube, and we have a daily newsletter at lockedondaily.com. Sign up, Locked on Jazz. Be ready for the entire offseason, all the latest rumors, all the latest stories, all the latest everything, and get it in your inbox every single day with Locked on Jazz. Today's show, Dan Roberts is about to join us. Dan Roberts is the in-arena voice for the Utah Jazz. How about them Jazz? Or how about this Jazz? He has called every game but like 3 or 4 inside the arena anyone's ever been to. He is a staple in our community. And it's fun to spend some time with him today. So we thought we'd play that tribute. I wanted to take a moment, and I'm getting melancholy as the season comes close to an end. But I also had an experience yesterday with a woman named Leah who stopped me outside of REI as I picked up end of season brand new skis, because that's what everyone does. And I was super moved. It was really awesome. We had a great conversation. Leah shared some comments with me about just what Locked on Jazz means and does, and the approach. And it was incredible, truly incredible. I picked up the phone, called my wife, called 2 close friends, like immediately afterwards. It was just incredible. So that, coupled with talking to Dan Roberts, reminded me just about this community. But I just want to take a second today, rather than kind of the big open and big take. We'll talk to Dan, and that'll be the show, and say thanks. I truly love this. Everyone asked me this year, like, oh my gosh, what's it been like? It's been fine. Like, because I get to call games, which I love. I'm working inside of a team community that I love. And you are amazing. Those of you that have stuck with us this year, it's incredible. Yeah, this has not been easy. I can understand if you waned. The comment zones are crappy, but I think the majority, and actually all of you that are still watching and listening today, have decided that they're going to go on the journey and be a part of a community. And in a world in which we need to be with others, and if any podcast you listen to or self-help thing or whatever, like, we need people, we need togetherness. We need a place. And if Locked on Jazz is that place for a brief moment for any of you, it is the most moving and important thing to me. And you're doing it for me. Like, this is not the easiest thing. And there have been probably more missed episodes this year than there have been before. When, you know what, when there was 18 inches of powder earlier this year, it was like, yeah, we're going skiing. So there's been a little of that on my end. I'm not innocent of it. And I'm sure there's been a little, if you listen to 3 episodes a week, you might listen to 2 right now. I got it. But the bigger picture is that we have this amazing community of people. I'm so lucky I get to live with Thurl and Ron and Craig and Jeremy and Joe and Travis and Spence and, these people that, you don't know. I get to see Andrea and Nio and Eric and all these people before I see Jake and Tim. Right. These is my little world that's about to come to an end. So I'm certain melancholy about it. We're not going to come to an end Locked on Jazz. We'll stay here and rev up for the draft. It'll be super fun and pray to every God item thing we know on May, whatever it is for the lottery. But I just want to say thanks. That's really all it was. I want to say thanks. I want to say thanks to Leah for stopping me and sharing. I want to say thanks to all of you. I look at the numbers every day. They're good. We still have a 5th biggest audio audience on the podcast network. So I just want to say thanks. That's it. It's a great community. I'm super lucky to be part of it. I thank you for sticking with it. And I thank you for giving me the juice and energy to get us through it. We got 4 more days. We'll do it. we'll get back to regular tomorrow. Dan Roberts joins us next. It'll be a super fun conversation about his time as the PA announcer of the Utah Jazz. Today's show is brought to you by Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street, also in Logan and in Linden. The Murdochs have been in Utah for over 80 years. They want to make sure you have the no regrets experience. Hyundai, pretty fabulous. Santa Fe I'm driving right now is as good. Well, the Palisade right before. Okay, both the Palisade and the Santa Fe are as good of cars I've ever driven with Hyundai. I love my non-electric because the Ioniq 5s are really great. Wow, that's a hard choice. I didn't mean to do that right there, but I don't have a good answer for it. They're fabulous. You get all the bells, all the whistles. You get all the best safety features at the best price. And you get the VIP experience over at Murdoch Hyundai. So if you're heading over to Linden or to Logan or to 4646 South State Street in Murray, email me first at dlock09@gmail.com and let us set you up with the VIP meeting that you deserve at Locked On Jazz. That's dlock09. Email me, let me know the location, and we'll set you up with a VIP meeting. So when you walk in, someone greets you immediately. You don't go through that awkward little moment when you go to a car dealership, and we take care of you with the best service we possibly can. It's all at Murdoch Hyundai. What an honor to be joined by Dan Roberts, the only in-arena voice ever, other than his son filling in for him and a few other things, but generally the only in-arena voice ever for the Utah Jazz. The same in-arena voice that little David Locke went to games with his dad when he was 1979 and 80 and 81 when he was a 9, 10, 11-year-old kid who listened to the same David Locke who pulls the same Dan Roberts who died, pull little headphones off so I can hear how to pronounce players' names correctly when I'm missing on the broadcast or when I want to hear what's going on. Dan, welcome to the program. A week of celebration for you. How are you feeling about just all of the attention and everything that's so well-deserved?
Well, that's a very fair question. And I have to admit, very emotional because after all this time and, 45, 46 years, whatever they're counting, it's become a habit. And the idea of ego gets in the way with that type of thing. And with that in mind, I had to take a step back and just work on the fact that it's, time to, move on and do something different. And it was, it's been hard and I'm still working with it, but hopefully it'll set in. You know what I'm saying? You understand perfectly what I'm saying.
Yeah. Do you have any, have you tried to envision Wednesday and Friday nights? Are you trying to stay away from thinking about it? Are you trying to treat it like every other of the thousands and tens of thousands of games you've called? What's your approach?
That's a fair question. I think about it every night, man. The Wednesday night, they're going to allow me to, I don't have to hop over the table for a change. So they're going to allow me an early access on a timeout. And I'll have my wife and my son Jeremy and my daughter Amy with us, and we'll kind of stand center court. I begged them to have a microphone so I could at least offer some gratitude and appreciation for the crowd. And, they're working on that. It's always something to work on, David. You know that as well as anybody.
When you became, for those who don't know, Dan started in radio and was a public address announcer at the University of Utah before the Jazz. When the Jazz first came to town, let's go back and the job opens. What did you think you were applying for? What did you think this was going to be compared to what it actually became?
I had to audition for the Utah Stars. That was the ABA team we had here. Do you remember the red, white, and blue ball? Yeah. That's where I met Booney. Ron and I became at least talking people back then. He was pretty arrogant back then because he was good. So the end result of it is, and you know him better as well as I do, I'm pretty sure. So the end result of what I was doing was equal to what I did for the Stars. I had to audition. And David Fredman, bless his heart, gave me an audition, and he knew in his heart that he wanted me to be there because I had enough experience, and the idea of being able to handle a game and stuff was that was there. So I didn't have any preconceived notions of what it was going to be. I just knew what it was going to be. I did my audition. I did 15 minutes of a game or activity. and the rest is history.
I'm curious. I've never called a game as big as the in-arena games you've called with the NBA Finals, but I did call a WNBA game final in which the crowd was, full. And I've always said it's the least energy I had to have ever in my life calling a game because the crowd was providing so much that I literally had to do almost nothing that night. Where are you more valuable? On a game 7 against the Seattle Supersonics, and I guess that was in Key Arena, right? But game 7 against somebody in the Western Conference playoffs, or on game 53 against Charlotte?
That's a fair question. The effort and the anxiety and the temperament is most assuredly applicable to a game that counts as heavily as the 2 finals that I got a chance to appear in. So that those were fairly intense from the standpoint of comparison relative to audience. I was around the world in a couple of introductions, and that made me almost melt. Thank goodness they didn't tell me that prior to starting. So he said, "Do you realize how many people you were talking to after I introduced the team?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, almost a hookup around the world." I almost fell down in the chair. So, but the end result of the difference between playing for all of the marbles versus playing to get to play for all the marbles is significant.
I do recall it. That was one of the first NBA finals where they started carrying the PA announcer, right?
Yeah,
I don't think they'd done that a lot. That was a big deal when they did that.
Yeah, Bob Costas tossed it to me a couple of times, and that was I got a chance to go over and say hi to him. He was interestingly arrogant, but a nice guy. And he didn't stand up because I knew how short he was, so I didn't want to overwhelm him with my height variation. But he was very cordial to a point, and that the last game when we lost it here at home, I was very despondent. I was watching Michael and Pippen smoke a cigar at center court, and it kind of bummed me out. But they deserved it, obviously. But then all of a sudden, I was alerted to the fact that Costas was throwing it back to me so I could take it back out to the presentation of the trophy at center court. And all of a sudden I had to snap to again. And I just went over to the table and just picked up the microphone, and I got cued and let it happen. And let's go to center court, blah, blah, blah. It was that was an interesting moment because I had to shift gears on my emotions. That was kind of interesting.
How about this Jazz? It's the only time I've ever said that in my life. It's the only time I ever will. It's your phrase. I don't even pretend. Where did it come from? How did it take off? And will you do something with it significant this week?
It's a possibility, yes. In 1980, the year after I started, I was reading an article in Sports Illustrated, and it was an article on the Georgia Bulldogs. And the entitlement of the article was, "How About Them Dogs?" I looked at that and said, "How about them?" And I said, "No, how about this Jazz?" And I recreated it and threw it out there, and it took off.
And how do you know when to use it?
Crowd activity when they're coming back on court, halftime and entering the court, but for warm-ups and stuff. I tried to wait until there was a pertinent moment that we'd either done something spectacular and the crowd was going wild. I just endorsed it then, or else it was an oncoming, like I said, back on the court, a halftime or early, the first tip off, that sort of time.
Back to kind of what I was asking this kind of earlier, you answered it differently than I anticipated. When you first started, when I was first in the Salt Palace as a young kid with my dad watching games and being a big Jazz fan, there wasn't the hoopla. In fact, you don't know this. I should pull it out of my back. You once announced me at mid-court when I had the Ricky Green signed program for my Zales watch that I won at mid-court of a Jazz game when I was probably 13 years old, or maybe less. So yes, little did you know that we had actually met in 1983.
May I apologize for not remembering that incident?
Yeah, that's fine. I've never mentioned it to you till now. But at those days, like the commercial break or whatever was like literally a Zales, like a little boy came out with a program signed by Ricky Green and got a Zales watch. And now there's jazz dancers and Red Panda and endless music and all the rest. The evolution of it all. What has it been like for you in the evolution of it all?
Mind-boggling, to be perfectly honest. It's an effort that transisted relative to keeping the crowd into the game. I mean, I used to do some of the cheerleading that Mike does now on court. And thank the good Lord they took that away from me, because it was impossible to do a set of commercials or whatever, some endorsements, and then all of a sudden have to pump the crowd up. It just didn't work. And so it's been a league-wide situation, I think, David, that they've got guys that come out and whip the crowd on, certain moments, coming out of timeouts and when they're coming back on court and stuff like that. It's I'm okay with that. It's a league-wide thing. It just materialized relative to keeping the activity and the mentality of the crowd in tune with the game and, hyping it.
When the game's over, do you know what happened?
Yeah, I don't remember incident by incident, but there's no question of, I know what we did. I know how we played.
I mean, sometimes I sometimes feel like, but you're watching, like, as a play-by-play announcer, I'm watching the ball the whole time. And so I sometimes don't feel like I actually have much of an idea. I very regularly have to go back and watch a game to have any idea, like, what happened in the night.
I'm not bragging about knowing every minute, I assure you, but pertinent minutes and the end result are very prominent when I walk out of the building.
We're with Dan Roberts. Dan, if you don't mind, I'm going to take a quick second. I'm going to do a little commercial, because that's actually how these things work. We pay the bills. Then I want to come back and I want to talk about fun interactions, whether it's a official or a player or some of those kind of things that obviously you've gotten to do throughout your life in this career. So more with Dan Roberts coming up here in just a moment here on Locked On Jazz. Today's edition of Locked On Jazz is brought to you by Robinhood. Robinhood, where the rest opens up the world for you, not just the 1%. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receive a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%. Plus, you also get 4% AYP on your cash and non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available to any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year with first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national average savings account. Interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Today's show is also brought to you by BetterHelp. Therapy is available for you now online. Convenient, flexible online therapy. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Performance enhancement is the way to think about it. Taking care of your mental health is just as important as taking care of your physical health. Weight room, brain room, whatever you want to call it. Put the traditional in-person therapy can be expensive and often ranging from $100 to $250 per session. That's where BetterHelp comes in. With online therapy, you can get quality care at a price that makes sense, saving your time and money. Therapy isn't just for the toughest moments in life. It can help you with everyday stress, learning how to set boundaries, developing positive coping skills, having access to support when you need it. It can make a big difference. Your well-being is worth it. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today at 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. David Locke along with Dan Roberts here on Locked On Jazz. So fun today. We just did 2 ads. One was for money management and the other was for mental health. I think Dan could use, having a transition, like maybe it was perfect. No. All right, let's go to fun interactions. I'm sure this is the cliche question you've been asked, but you interact with the officials, you interact with coaches, you interact with players, you interact with Frank. I'm sure Will Hardy's made you laugh every now and then. I'm sure Quinn Snyder got mad at you. You're accurate.
You're accurate, man.
What are the fun interactions that you think back on in this run?
And I can't quote for obvious reasons, but the end result of one of Jerry's blow-ups occurred when we were playing Denver, and we were just beating the crap out of them. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And towards the end of the game, this is when, oh God, what was Dan? I can't think of his name. He played for Kentucky. He also played in Issel. Right, there you go. And he was sitting there with his arms folded, staring straight out into the court. And then at 1 minute, just before I looked at him and realized that he didn't give a damn anymore, the end result was John Stockton took a shot and drained it. And Issel looked at Sloan and just absolutely eyeballed him down the road. He almost would probably walk across just to take a shot at Jerry, which would have cost him his life, obviously. But the end result of he folded his arms and looked at Sloan and said, "I'm not going to forget this." And Sloan came down the court, just ran down towards our table, slammed his hand, called Stockton a vicious, vile name. I told them and not to do that, right in front of Orrin Hatch, too, the former senator here. I was howling. I was laughing. I had to turn my head around because I was laughing so hard. It was just amazing. And they called a timeout and Stock got out of it, but we beat the crap out of him. But that interaction between Issel and Jerry Sloan was really fun. I knew Issel when he played in the ABA and when I was working with Utah Stars. And so he actually said hi to me quite a few times. He was a very, very nice guy. But that particular moment when he was coaching that lousy game was just hilarious. I've had a couple of very decent official friends. Kennedy is a great guy. He's one of my favorite people. He and I always have recognized each other, and he's been very cordial and appreciative of what I do. And, the funny things basically have been, few and far between. It's amusing to talk to the officials. I can't really be involved with them very, very, conversationally. They're more interested in talking to Chris, who keeps score next to me, because they review shots and then they take them back and watch the revision of the game, on the video. So I keep myself away from the officials. I say hi to them when they come out, and a lot of them are very cordial and wish me well, etc. I've had some very nice experiences with a lot of the TV people who, oh, by the way, you're quitting. They give me a hug and a handshake. It's been very cool with that. That's been a lot of fun. And other than that, it's just a regular deal. That it's just a social event that I occasionally jump into.
It's an interesting one for the two of us because Dan and I have known each other for a long time, but we both get to the arena about the exact same time and both start working about the exact same time. So you and I have rarely had the chance to chat. We've chatted a few times about Jeremy and what he's doing. I got to know your son a little bit, and he obviously filled in for you. But it's funny how we all have our own little ecosystem that we run around inside this building, and yet we're also all part of this little fraternity or family that we all, I think, are there for each other. So it's fun to hear your version of these because I don't have a knowledge. I'm curious, as a PA announcer, do you listen to other PA announcers to hear how they do things? Do you study the art did you study the art the same way?
No, not really, David. The one thing I am doing is I've been on with NCAA with the video game. I'm in my 5th year with them. I just came back from Burbank this last weekend, and I'm going to be on 26. And it's been really fun to sort of get involved with video and stuff like that. But I've not had an opportunity to be involved with other guys, which I'd really love to do. The end result of that is hopefully I would like, and this is not any competition for you, how good you are, but I'd like to set up a broadcast if we could to get involved with some of the other guys in the league and talk to them, get feedback. And a pretty good name for the possibility for the podcast. So
that's cool.
We want to see if we could get involved with that.
I love it. All right, begin to wrap up with you. I don't know how many people know this. 1979, maybe the most important basketball game ever played. I mean, I think arguably. Larry Bird versus Magic Johnson, Huntsman Center. You were the PA announcer for that NCAA final game.
Yes.
I mean, I think you probably realized what the importance at the time, right?
Let's put it this way. By the time it ended, it suddenly occurred to me what was going to happen. I went through it, but, Magic was big time with Michigan State, and then Larry was obviously huge with his team. What was his team's name?
Indiana State.
Indiana State, yeah. It was a massive game simply because of each one of them. I didn't have a concept of what it was going to do to the league, but afterwards it suddenly occurred to me that they're going to set the thing on fire. That's, to me, when the NBA began, David. I thought that was that was the beginning of the where we are and where we've evolved into the present.
Yeah, the Portland Trailblazers, Seattle Supersonics, and Washington Bullets would quibble. They were the previous champion. Golden State Warriors, they were the previous 4 champions. But yes, I think you are exactly right, Dan. That is the day the league changed forever in 1979 at the Huntsman Center with Larry and Magic coming in the league. I've chosen them for you, but what will be the biggest what are your biggest memories? What will be the moments that you remember the most?
The unfortunate consequences of losing the last game and watching Pippen and Jordan smoke a cigar in the center court, that bothered me a bit. But watching the end of that game sticks in my mind forever, David. I can't put that out because I watched it all happen and I knew what was going to happen. You could tell Michael was ready to go after that ball in a heartbeat, and there was nothing that anybody could do about it. And then when Brian got thrown out of the way, the ball goes in. I mean, I'm not answering your question very well with a positive answer, but that's one of the most significant moments I've ever had.
I was doing the pre-halftime postgame show at the time. I was 2 rows behind you to the right. And I mean, yeah, like absolutely not like it's too soon still, right? Like,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, what was most painful about it, frankly, was the genius of it, as you're kind of saying, like
Precisely.
Michael had literally been waiting the entire series to make that play. Like he had run that route following Hornacek, and he knew, and he waited until he had to come back around the other side of Carl to make the steal.
Yeah, he knew exactly what that play was going to be. I mean, Stockton laid it out. He went to the corner. Carl got the ball, turned around. Stockton threw him the ball. He started to, and Carl just lost track of where Michael was, and that was the end of it right there.
And you knew that he was pulling for that jumper. It was. I remember having actually. It's funny you say this because one of the most mixed emotion moments of my life, like as a lifetime Jazz fan, grew up as a Jazz fan. Like Pippen's in the locker room with back spasms, like we're winning the title. And at the other time, you just realized you watched the greatest player ever in the history of the NBA just make 2 of the greatest plays ever that are probably the single most iconic play that's ever been made in the entire league. And you were in like the first and second row for it. Like, but it wasn't for us. Like,
yeah. You read me like a book on that one, man. I mean, that kept me awake at nights for a week afterward, just reliving that moment. I mean, we were so close and yet so far. It just was amazing.
There's so many people you work with, from Mikkel to everyone else. I don't want to put you in a position where you don't call someone out, but is there somebody that is worth mentioning behind the scenes that's been particularly important to Dan Roberts?
Probably Sean next to me. I mean, I take his cues. He sets up the lineups for me on the computer. I've gone from having to read small print on paper to the computer, which is a major advantage for me. The end result of being able to stare straight forward and read and he's been very valuable to me. He's just a dear. And then secondly to him is Chris Healy, who sits on my right. He scorekeeps, and he's as knowledgeable about numbers as any human being I've ever known in my entire life. And he will correct me in an instant. If I make a mistake, he will come up and he'll correct me right off the bat, and I'll pull it back as fast as I can. He knows each and every minute of what's going on. He reports to the officials. I've got two guys on either side of me that are just dynamite. I just really, really appreciate their devotion to the game and their attitude, and they help me be who I am too.
This one I might be, what's it called when you put myself on you, whatever that, but I'm only imagining here for a second. So my daughter is in sophomore in college and started calling games.
Yeah.
And when she called the opener of the Nebraska men's basketball this year on the same night I called Jazz Bulls at the exact same time. And I've said it's one of the 5 greatest moments of my life. I know what the other 4 should be. I'm just not sure they are. What was it like when Jeremy filled in for you?
I was comfortable. The interesting thing about Jeremy, and I love the boy dearly, as you know, but the end result of his ability to imitate me fooled a number of the ushers out of the court. The end result, he said, "Who was that was feeling? You sounded like you were here and you weren't here." And it was very amusing. He's got a lot of his dad's chutzpah. He's got no fear of microphones like I don't, and you don't as well. So,
all right, Friday night. Any thoughts, plans?
We're gonna have a little bit of a thing Wednesday. They're gonna put me on court with my wife and Jeremy and Amy, my daughter, and we'll just sit there. But they've got so much to do at a 7:30 game that I don't know. I'm gonna bid the crowd farewell. I think, David, that'll be the best I can do at that time. It's going to be surrealistic, to be perfectly honest with you, to sit there and write it out and know that that's the end. So that's I have to deal with that.
Dan, I'll speak to you as both a colleague and a lifelong Jazz fan, and just say thank you. I really, it's been cool. You've been my voice as a fan when I don't know if you recall this in any way, shape, or form, but when I kind of was one of my first games when I took over for Hot Rod, you were very kind to me and kind of wished me luck in a way that it mattered, because you're Dan Roberts, and Hot Rod and Dan Roberts are the cornerstones of the Utah Jazz franchise, and I was replacing one of them and scared. And just to have you, I don't know if you recall, but I honestly can't recall if it was the preseason or the first regular season game, but you kind of took a moment and said something to me. And I guess next year I'll have to repay that to whoever's scared taking your spot in honor of your kindness. And I just want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure as a fan to have you in the arena. More often, you'd be surprised how often I pull the headphone off to hear who made that play when I didn't quite see it right. And as the announcer, I know you're going to be accurate, so that's a wonderful gift for me as the play-by-play announcer. And on radio, no one will know if I'm wrong, but I want to be. And I just want to thank you for. And always just I don't want to misplay this in some way that you and I are super close. I kind of openly admitted, like, we both get to the arena and we start working, but it's always great to see you. And I think you and I always have a little interplay, and it's part of it's an honor to have worked with you, and I really appreciate it.
And the respect, I assure you, is mutual. There is no Ray that I want to get in your way because you are so focused on what you're doing. I mean, I've watched you intently when you're interviewing, when Booney was out there with you with the camera and stuff. I just stay out of your way because I know, again, your intensity is off the chart, and I honor that. I guarantee you. We both prep before a game, and we both care about what the hell we're doing out there. So that's significant, and I appreciate your sentiment very much.
I will enjoy Wednesday and Friday, and I hope you do too.
Thank you, bud. I take care of you. Good to talk to you very much.
Thanks, bud.
Bye.
That is Dan Roberts, the only voice ever in arena. Thanks so much for tuning in to Locked On Jazz today. We will make sure you follow me on socials, DLock09. Super fun to have Dan back with the regular programming tomorrow. We'll get ready for the Wednesday program. Thanks very much for tuning in. We now send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel, Locked On NBA. Plus, make sure you check out Locked On NBA Game Night, every game, every night on Locked On NBA. Have a great one.